Dr. Yam, your Keep It Simple coach for women getting mad, motivated, accountable, and developing. So today, I want to motivate you to get more accountable when it comes to your level of focus. And so tonight, and maybe for a couple of nights, I'd like to have a conversation in regards to the power of focus and how that can empower you to get to your inner greatness, as I would like to say. So that is where we're going to have our focus for today. One of the great things about being in business for yourself is obviously you get to tell yourself what to do every day. But at the same time, there's always this push and pull kind of a struggle because there's the time that you need to dedicate to building your business, growing your business, uh, all the necessary kind of daily tasks that are necessary. And so you do have to enter into this work with a proper frame of mind. And so some of you have already started in participating in my boot camp on preparing for leaving your 9 to 5. So hello, hello, hello to all of you who are in the group. We're already kicked off on Sunday and we are off and popping. So, however, for those that didn't get a chance to join the group, I do want this to uh, lend itself as a message. In fact, I sent a memo to a couple of my individuals, and it has to do with what is called um, the the law of diminishing intent. And so the law of diminishing intent is kind of centered around the fact that um, you, you have best intentions for getting things done, but they don't get done. So it happens to the best of us, right? It's not things happen. You have all good intentions, and we get sometimes distracted, and it doesn't actually carry itself out, and it kind of peters away in a sense. So um, I want you to think about how excited you were about the business idea that you still have in your head, and that you're here in this group for a reason. You sought out help, you sought out a community that you felt it was going to provide you with a support mechanism to help you to get that business idea off the ground. And so the boot camp was an example of how that could get accomplished in you reaching your end goal. And timing is everything. So I certainly understand that, and I'm not here to beat anybody up. That's not what this conversation is about. But I do feel as though for many of you there may be this gap that needs to get filled. So I wanted to be the gap filler and reach out to you. I want you to reach out to me to see where we can lessen that gap of diminishing intent. And so the law of diminishing intent comes from an individual who talks about success a lot. His name is Jim Rohn. He has lots of wonderful quotes. Rohn, Rohn, Jim Rohn. You can find him. He has a website, jimrohn.com. He's since passed away, but his content is still very relevant. So I do encourage you to visit the website, and you may find some encouraging words. But the law of diminishing intent is almost sounds like a disease, but it's not. But a coach, my coach and mentor, John Maxwell, puts it this way. He says that the longer you wait to do something you should be doing now, the greater the odds are that you'll never actually get it done. So let that kind of sink in your head for a minute. And so that's essentially what the law of diminishing intent is. We all fall victim to procrastination. It's some of us fall harder than others. And kind of like, and when you think of procrastination, when it comes to starting a business or getting something done that you really had good intentions around, it's kind of like your credit card, is how I equate it. And in a credit card situation, right, you can charge all month, right? You take out the card, you're charging, you're charging, you're charging. If you do not pay that bill at the end of the month, what happens? You get charged interest rate. And you're going to keep getting charged that interest rate until you pay the balance. And so it compounds and compounds and compounds. And so you just never, if you let it do that and you don't see an end road in sight, that's kind of the same thing as diminishing intent. And so I certainly don't want you falling into that trap. That's a whole nother story. But just know that it has to do with how you can have what I call focusitis. So meaning, are you suffering from a lack of focus? And how this particular exercise, I feel, is a conversation, because I don't want you to be a victim of procrastination anymore. And I want you to be able to take action. And tonight's the night that you get to do so. And I want to be the catalyst for you to take action on avoiding a pitfall of diminishing intent and falling into the hole of procrastination, because you deserve better. You deserve to get to the desires of your heart. You deserve to have and reach the apex of your dream business, whatever that is, and that is why you are here. And this is what the message I was asked to give to you today. So I hope you will take it in good spirit. At least that's my goal for you tonight. Okay. I gotta make sure I take this off. Sometimes I think I have my mic in. So there is power in being focused. So I kind of thought that I would run down a few aspects about what is focus, and also how is it that you can get in alignment with being focused, and a kind of lean in to the factors of what focus is and how you can take advantage of it for your business idea, so that you will not let other opportunities pass you by. Okay, so let's talk about defining focus. So focus is an integral part of accomplishment, essentially, and it's actually falls inside of the same lane as ambition and motivation, leadership, and other driving forces are kind of things that are necessary for one to become successful. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it gives the attention that it deserves. So it's often downplayed, and the role of focus cannot be sabotaged in an individual's ability to be productive. So all that basically means is that you need to be focused in order to achieve something or to be successful in your endeavors. But before you can go into that, it's important that, excuse me. You want to take a really good look at what focus really means. So by definition, focus is a skill that allows people to start a task without procrastinating and then keep up their attention and effort until the job is complete. So it is an ability to not only pay attention to the things that you are engaged in, but it's also to avoid being distracted, and that will impede that work from getting done as you're trying to get it done. Okay. So in fact, that focus is so important, I guess, for getting things done, that you can't really think without having focus, essentially. I know a lot of people, we have there's a perception out there about multitasking. And really what that is that you're just splitting the time that you're doing things and you're not focusing on it because you're multitasking. Your mind is not designed naturally for you to do 10,000 things at the same time. It's just not naturally designed that way. So when you hear things like perception, memory, learning, reasoning, decision-making, problem solving, you know that none of those can get done successfully unless you're focused. So If, on the contrary, um, your mind wanders, it's going to make it less effective in your work and in your productivity is what's going to suffer. So the same is also can compromise the quality of that work that you're trying to accomplish, and you're not working and getting some what we call optimal results. So so you just don't want to forget that it's also wasting time for every instance that your mind kind of drifts off. Now, I do suffer from getting sometimes easily distracted because I have a low on what we call a spectrum. I am on a low spectrum of attention deficit disorder. So, and I'm also a little dyslexic. So those are some challenges I try to work my way through. However, that's not to say that I cannot focus. I just have to put a lot more effort into getting those things done in order for me to level my areas of success to expect to my own expectations. Okay, so that's essentially what is focus. Now, having said that, um, why do people suffer from a lack of focus is a question, right? So there are some cases that the lack of focus may be a matter of interest. So sometimes, you take your everyday to-do task. Now, everything on that list might be interesting to work on, but there are things that are on there that need to get done that you just don't have an interest in doing. So in those areas that you don't have an interest in doing, you kind of get yourself stuck, and you're feeling like you're trapped in doing something that you could care less about. And so your only obligation may be the feeling that you need to get the job done to move on to other things. And so that's not much of a motivator, is it? But it's a reality. And so in the real world, some things you got to get done and make way for other things. You just got to push through it. And sometimes we use reward systems in order for us to do this. Like, let me do this, let me do the ugly stuff first, and that way I can go have fun to do some of the other things. Like when you grew up, before you could go out and play, you had to clean your room, right? You had to focus, get that done, pass inspection, and then you were able to go out the door and play. So sometimes you got to get to the good stuff, you got to go through the bad stuff. So that is another way where why people suffer from focus is that they are doing things that just are not of interest to them. And it's only natural that your mind can kind of drift off and in those particular situations, and you can find yourself making up excuses for why things didn't get done in a particular way, and then but it doesn't justify it that you just didn't do the job right or didn't do it at all. So it's not a good thing, but it is why people tend to have a lack of focus. So is that something that you feel is one of the reasons why you suffer from in the areas of procrastination, is that you typically are doing things that you really don't have an interest in doing? Okay, and then you don't want to dress them up and then make all excuses about procrastination in and of itself. So that brings us to another area of focus, which is procrastination. So this is probably a very big hurdle in a way of attaining good focus. And when you use procrastination to get out of the things that you really say to yourself you just don't want to do in a particular task, then you're secretly hoping that it will just go away on its own, and that, or you will eventually feel motivated to do the work. Now, so with so much going on, it's not a wonder the focus could get sidelined. The things that should be getting focused get sidelined, and or never focus at all or come to the forefront of getting done. So procrastination is kind of like the cousin to a lack of focus. And so think about that. And then while there are more that can be said about procrastination, it does cross that bridge, and we'll probably touch on it a little bit more. But for just now, just know that it's kind of like the cousin of all excuses. Procrastination, just keep putting it off. So how can you counter a lack of focus? Well, one is you can address what does need to get done and make a clear-cut goal for yourself, on that particular thing and get kind of centered around the purpose of why you want to get that item done. And then that way, just kind of address it full on and move on. It's essentially what that talks about in my from some of the experiences that I've dealt with. And so when you have a very clear cut goal, then it helps to define what needs to get done. So I've talked about goal setting in the past. And if you are new to the group and you didn't get a chance to listen live on one of my calls, I want you to go into the video section and you will see goal setting. And so that is one of the key things about addressing what needs to get done is you got to have a goal. And then you have objectives on those goals. So I walk through the whole process of how you can write goal statements, and that also can help you in being able to get focused. Okay. Another thing that helps you is addressing the why something has to get done. So in this particular case, while you have a clear-cut goal, there has to be a sense of purpose. And that means that the dilemma can start to resolve itself fairly easily if there is a sense of purpose that kind of verifies why something needs to get done. If you are driven by why it gets done, then you're probably a little bit more motivated to get it done, even if it is something that you don't particularly like. So people are naturally motivated when they have a reason to do something, right? So think about that. So with that in mind, you may feel more inclined to perform better so that you can get a better set of results. Another thing is a sense of purpose will also kind of fine tune your focus so that you will want to get better results out of those particular efforts. Another thing that can address being a focus is address when something has to get done. So this also kind of ties to that prioritizing your goal, and so that there's something important that has to get done first. So knowing what has to get done and then giving it a time constraint is another way of moving the needle. So if you're staying focused on getting something done is you're purposeful, and that now you're putting a time constraint to it. Saying if I get this done and I'm staying focused and I get it done at this set of time, I'm more motivated. Again, it's another factor. So successful time management lets you take control of your life rather than others, it taking control of you. So you may end up accomplishing more, performing better, and becoming more successful about those particular goals. And so there's also a perk that you have a sense of satisfaction and a peace of mind, and there's a sense of accomplishment with that. So there is an immediate kind of trade-off for doing that particular work. Okay. Another thing about the power, hey there, Tiffany, I'm talking about the power of focus. Tune in, okay? So we're moving right along on the power of focus. And so another piece, let me get my notes, oops, is was the when of something getting done. So there goes on being prioritized in and of itself. Now, let me go back to okay. There are types of focus. So having established that there is an ability to focus on critical elements for success in any aspect of your life. So let's look at a couple different types of focus that you may need to develop to achieve your success. The first type of focus is what is called inner focus. So this is the common type. This is the inner focus of an individual's ability to block out distractions, focus on the present moment, and task and stay calm under pressure. Now, this is type of focus that develops a person's intuition, also that gut feeling and good decision making. So the benefit of establishing inner focus allows you an ability to stay focused in your goals and managing your own schedule. So that's one type of focus. Another type of focus on my screen is focusing on others. Now, not everyone masters this type of focus very well, but it does go beyond what one is doing or demands of you. It tend to do what others are doing or are saying instead. So This type of focus is especially important in workplace situations and teamwork scenarios where your output is affecting other people's input. Let me repeat. When you're focusing on others, this type of focus is especially important in your workplace because it's where your output is affected by others' input. So, however, this type of focus is not only restricted to professional setting, but it can also be applicable into your personal and social context as well. So there's inner, there's um, focusing on others, and then last is outer focus. So an outer focus kind of goes beyond paying attention to the other people and the demands that of paying attention to your immediate surroundings. Outer focus is based on the peripheral learning and allows a person to think strategically. So it also allows for you to make the adjustments to the outer surroundings and circumstances, I should say, around you to change. So essentially, what that means is that you are very sensitive to the fact that there are it's not just about you and not about how you're affecting others. It's about your surroundings and how your surroundings are going to affect how you play into the game of focus in and of itself. So it's that kind of peripheral layer of learning, and it allows a person to think strategically. Now, think about that for a second. Do you typically take kind of account or kind of inventory of what's going on around you so that you can make the necessary adjustments to the circumstances so that you can remain in the area of focus? That's essentially what outer focus will do for you. So that gives you a little bit of a definition of what is focus and the types of focus and why people suffer from a lack of focus in and of itself. Let's tap into one other area before I let you go. And this is around escaping the busy trap. Now, everybody thinks busy is good, and it does have its downfalls. It's just people like to say, I'm busy. No, you don't want to say that because it actually can be counterproductive. So, being overwhelmed is a result of being in burnout. So, this produces a condition where that individual feels mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted. So, and we all may have had that experience in our lives. And the things is that you don't want to get stuck there. So, that is a feeling that when you feel overwhelmed and you aren't able to keep up with the demands, and that's kind of where burnout is. When you start to feel so overwhelmed that you can't focus because you just can't seem to wrap your arms around anything. That's how burnout is, what people experience burnout. And so as a result of the chaos also factors into that equation. And then the missing elements, once again, is the focus. So feelings of being persistently overwhelmed can easily cause you to lose interest. And as well as, of course, being motivated, and then bring you into a state of wanting to feel like you're feeling kind of powerless and helpless, and then you start to get a feeling of being worn out. And so once again, you may be trying to do too much and more than it is realistic to handle, essentially. So that's a trap that many people can find themselves in. So being busy is not good because it can cause to being overwhelmed and then cause you to feel suffer from burnout. And so oh, sorry, my screen jumped out on my thing. So, when talking about burnout, though, remember that it's not mere exhaustion that you are experiencing. It doesn't merely affect your performance, but it can affect other aspects of your life. And so, for instance, you may work on something unbearable. So again, remember, loss of focus is typically caused about doing something you have no interest in. plain and simple. So if it becomes so unbearable and you are willing to lose not only the interest is almost on everything else that you're doing. So it's not just the loss of interest on that one thing. It kind of has a rollover effect and causes you to have disinterest in everything or lots of other things. So the fun stops being fun and everything becomes insignificant and it starts to bother you. So in the state of burnout, this feeling does not go away, but can stick around for quite some time on a regular basis. And so you want to stay in a level of awareness. And if you start to find yourself getting into a rut, then you really need to start turning your attention to focus. So just remember that being focused is going to be, like we talked about in the other chapter, is what is the what, the why, and the when formula that when it can come in very handy. What are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? And when, that being timely and effort. So those are some of the things I just covered and how you can, tools or ways in which you can get to a level of focus. So I just wanted to talk about burnout a little bit because some people can really get themselves dug into a hole. And then that's why they are finding themselves in a kind of like I almost want to say like they're just kind of spinning in the same spot all the time and they're not feeling like they're making movement. So there's a difference between motion and movement. And I use this example a lot. So motion just means that you're in motion, but you could be in motion and just be walking in a circle the whole time. You're not getting anywhere. Movement means making a physical positioning of your body that is different than the place that you just came from. So you want to be in movement and not motion. Motion is like busy work. You're just going to be doing this all day long and you're not getting anywhere. Okay. So you always want to be in movement and not motion. Okay. Now, here's my notes. So focus to, how do I want to put this? Okay. So how you can start to undo the effects of burnout. One is cut off the source of the burnout itself. It could be whatever is doing that trigger. If it's job-related burnout, then maybe you're working too many hours and you're not enough personal time. Typically is one of those. So think about that. Cut out the element of the burnout in and of itself. And also just try to be healthy. I know for me, it's like I need to probably sleep more, although I'm just not wired that way, but just trying to be healthy. When you're overwhelmed, you can easily take a toll on your health. And you start to engage and it kind of affects your physical being as well. And you're not giving yourself a break. So being able to even walk away from that source of burnout, do a little walk, even just stepping out of a room, just being in a different space, getting your head in a different game can make a world of difference. But do try to be healthy. Make sure you're eating regularly, that you're eating good things, and that you're taking your health into consideration as well and doing the good things. You know what they're supposed to be. You're old enough to know better. So I'm not going to preach to you on that. The other power of focus, get my little note here, is, okay, I talked about eating well. And then, of course, like I said, sleeping better. So that's one of my downfalls. I just don't find sleep to be necessary. And I know that's not good, but it does wear on you. But there are my good days. I'm just a night owl. So but I do get my sleep in. So if I stay up until 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, believe me, it's because I know I'm going to be able to get my 6 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep in, and then I can wake up, because that's the beauty about working for yourself, is that I can flex my time that way. If that, however, is not the type of work hours you currently have as the people in this particular group, and you are working full-time and you have not made the shift to entrepreneurship just yet, then that is another source of burnout, is not getting the proper sleep. And you think that staying up late is helping, it's not. You're not helping anybody. Go to sleep. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. Now, the impact of being overwhelmed is that it kind of, again, gives you that personal turbulence. The world's going to keep moving at its own pace, and you're going to feel as though you're feeling bombarded, that you're not able to keep up that daily grind, and feel out of sort. And it's almost, in some cases, if some, you might have even heard the term of having a FOMO moment, that feeling of missing out. And that for a lot of people can cause them to feel overwhelmed, that I'm not keeping up with everything else you think you ought to be doing. And 9 times out of 10, this probably stuff that you don't need to be worrying about right now, because again, going back to the goal and going back to your prioritizing. So all of these things really start to play into one another. And it's not for me preaching about it. It's just a sense of knowing and understanding how things work. And if you're working against it, you're just putting yourself in a deeper level of a hole, and you're not going to be able to dig yourself out. So just take inventory of yourself and just know and understand how the principles of life kind of work out. Give yourself permission to step away, get rid of the source, and start focusing on yourself, and start prioritizing and setting goals, and how you can start to get to a better focus of better at being focused. And let me see what else. Let me just make sure I got to jump back and forth on my screen. Okay. And then last but not least, another reason for people, again, who are getting or affected by being overwhelmed, is, again, they're not planning. So it's very difficult for you to stay focused without a plan to execute. So unfocused individuals tend to work by the, kind of on a whim, and rather than being strategic. Again, that outer type of focus is that being strategic, right? So they seem like they think things might be important, but really that's not the real area right now. So you really want to have a plan of getting things done and strategically going about it. And like I said before, sometimes we have to get motivated on the things on our list. If you're not motivated, then that's how you get causing by your procrastination. And then the losing the track of time. That's another one. Time's going to run whether you do it or not. You've got to be realistic in how you're setting yourself up for those goals and getting things accomplished. Be realistic. I make a list every day. I am a list maker. But I also know that I put the 3 most important things I'm going to do for the day are always at the top, or they're numbered 1, 2, and 3. Those 3 got to get checked off at the end of every day. And so if everything else doesn't get done, as long as I know I got those first 3 done, I'm good with myself, and I give myself a little pat on the back. I'm good. So just know that when you have that lack of focus, you're going to get easily distracted. You're going to start losing a sense of time. And that also kind of all falls into that areas of being overwhelmed. And you just want to avoid these types. And if you find yourself doing these things and having these behaviors, then you're probably suffering from it as well, of being overwhelmed. And you got to start take stock of what's taking place in your life and start to make some decisions. Okay. Another thing that's get effects when you're in overwhelmed is that things get messy, you're getting unorganized, and possibly even a little flaky, meaning that you're not reliable to other people and you're starting to act flaky. But being messy and disorganized, or unorganized, I should say, those are other behaviors or symptoms of being overwhelmed. So start to take a step back and think about the things I just talked about. Are any of these holding true to you? If they are, it's okay, because I'd rather you know now what you're dealing with, and that there's ways in which you can overcome being overwhelmed, and then you can really give a focus on the things that you feel are the most important. And the sense of when you're overwhelmed is that you just start worrying about everything. And if you start being a worrier all the time, then you're probably in some condition of being overwhelmed, and you've got too much on your plate, and it's not helping you at all. So just kind of think about what we've just discussed tonight on the power of focus. Tonight, we really just wanted to understand what is focus, types of focus, how you can fall into an area of burnout, and how you can avoid that trap of being busy. And then tomorrow, I will circle back and give you a couple more tips on the power of focus and how is it that you can start to take advantage of it so that you can move in the direction of attaining your biz goals. I hope you found this to be helpful. Tap me down in the comments if you have any questions or concerns about what I covered tonight. And let's get busy. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.